and start putting this clutch back in. I cleaned the plates off with lacquer thinner and then got them soaking in the oil I'm using for the primary, which I'm just using straight 30 weight. I'm not going to argue about what kind of oil is best. You guys use whatever you want. I know I just put AMS oil in there and had problems with it, chattering. And this thing had no oil in the primary before when I got it. I mean, it was completely dry. Primary had been off of it. Put the AMS oil in there. Their stuff they recommend for Sportster primaries, whatever it is. And ever since put it in there, it's chattering when it's cold. Warms up, it gets better, but every once in a while it freaking chatters like crazy. Like I said, the boy was riding home the other day and it just started slipping all of a sudden, like. So took that crap out of there. And that's probably what happened to the other bike too, because I changed it to that AMS oil crap too. So I'll be putting 30 weight back in there as well, because there sure as hell wasn't nothing wrong with this clutch that was in this thing. Damper plate was a little bit loose on the rivets, but not enough to warrant replacing. I mean, the thing looked brand new, had no wear marks on it, just as flat as could be. Couldn't ask for much better. So if you're putting a new clutch in there, it's a good idea to always soak the plates for about at least, I'll do at least a half hour. I'm not putting new plates in there, but like I said, I clean these things and lacquer thinner to get that crap off of them, and sprayed everything off in here with lacquer thinner out of my spray bottle. And let's put it back together. Now you're going to start off with a friction plate, and then a steel, and then a friction. And what you want this damper plate, if your clutch has one in there, you want it about in the middle of the pack. So you're going to put in like 3 clutch plates and then throw this one in there. You don't want it on the end, that end or this end. You want it kind of sort of towards the middle. Doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, but close to it anyway. And not every clutch is going to have that in there. This is a stock Harley thing. If you're using like a Barnett extra plate kit or something, they do away with this. Instead of doing an 8 plate, they do a 9 plate kit. I think is what they did, because this thing has this particular bike in like 91 up to I don't even know what year, 2017 maybe, something like that, maybe even later, uses this clutch. This is a Fuji clutch made by Fuji Heavy Industries, which is what Harley uses. They used AP Lockheed clutches before in the 90 and earlier, and those things sucked. All kinds of problems with AP Lockheed stuff. Nothing but problems. They had an adjustable damn plate on there. You could adjust the spring tension by changing position of the plate. And the plates always wore out. And what they were trying to do is on those, you're trying to get the spring, the clutch spring, they wanted it within 10 thousandths of convex. And it had, you either shimmed it or you changed the position of the plate and it would make it tighter or looser. And if you couldn't get exactly where you wanted it to, you put shims behind it. And it's just a pain in the butt. Anyway, we're going to start off with, get our hands nice and oily. We're going to start off with a friction plate. Dropping all over my damn shoes. Oh well. And then a steel plate. And these things actually have a direction on them. In the middle of the pack, so I'm going to put my spring plate in there, damper plate, whatever you want to call it. Plate. Now when you're putting your pressure plate back on there, it's got these grooves here have to line up with the clutch hub. So if you put it in there, there's a mark on here somewhere. I can't see. I think it's right there. It's supposed to match up with one of these things has a dot on it. And it's supposed to match up with the damn dot on the hub. Switch out for my ring compressor. That thing wasn't quite right on there, so I'm using this oil filter wrench to fill it with. It's adjustable. It's a little bit stronger. I'm guessing you can probably see this. This little retaining ring sits on top of the spring here, and it kind of has to go down on this little nub right here around that, and this sits on top of the spring plate, so you have to compress the spring far enough to hold this down to be able to get this in, and then this slides into the grooves in the hub here. It's not easy, but it works. I guess it works for them. They don't come loose. No. Problem is getting this past far enough in there to clip into the clutch hub while holding this flat down in there, because this has to be perfectly flat against the spring plate here to get it in there. Make sure that your springs line up with the hub here as far as they go in. Springs should be plenty good right there. Got enough clearance to get the spring seat in there and the clip. I'll show you that in a minute. Alright, I don't know if you can really see that or not. Let me try and zoom in on this thing a little bit. If you look at the clip here, the spring seat needs to go in there far enough. You see, if you look where my finger is here, you can see that little tang right there. There's one right there. There's one over here. So the clip has to go in there, and then it sits inside the spring clip, kind of. The spring plate kind of sits on the ring, and when it comes out, it's basically just so the snap ring isn't riding on the clutch spring. And it acts as a retainer too, so it doesn't sandwich in. It keeps it spread out so it won't pop out. So let me try and get this thing in there. There's going to be some cussing going on here in a minute. You gotta hold your mouth just right to get the damn clip in all the way around and on the spring seat. It's a lot easier. You got a lot more clearance with the tool in there than you do with using this thing. And it doesn't really have it's not a regular snap ring where it has holes in it. It's got two little cutouts there. So easiest way to do it is kind of get it started on one side and then walk it around till it clips all the way in. As far as that thing goes, the spring seat is back here against the spring plate, like right there. And there's your clip all the way in there, all the way around. And you just tap it with a punch or a screwdriver just to make sure it's locked in place. And then we'll go ahead and release the pressure on it. Make sure everything's seated in there perfectly. Off there, spring seat's in place, you just want to look all the way around, make sure it's in every single one of these little tabs here. And you can physically see that they're all in there. If they're not, just take a punch and a hammer and knock them into place the rest of the way. We're looking good though, which is a lot easier, like I said, if you have the tool to do it with. You're not having to use a pair of vice grips to hold the damn shaft here while you're turning the nut. Comes with a damn bearing and a handle, so you're not using a wrench to turn it. It's just a lot nicer. And there's some decent aftermarket ones out there that aren't. If you're doing this, just be careful of the spring plate getting it in and out, because you can distort them, and most places don't carry them things. And if you bend it a little bit, you can beat it back into shape as long as it's flat enough to go up against the spring itself. All right, let me go ahead and throw this primary back on here so I can get this thing out of here. Go for a ride a little bit. Just peg and see what she does. Go shift when the oil light comes on. All right, I'm going to go grab my damn wallet. Go take it for a longer test ride. Feels pretty good though, being cold.